Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
I was listening to the top of the hour news, and there was a politician speaking. I swear, they speak, and here's a word that we don't use very often, retarded. We used to use that word a lot. Now, we don't use that word. But they speak as if they are retarded. They speak in choppy phrases. Parts of phrases, parts of words. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're here, broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Kyle's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Rick's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, DocRam.com. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vincent. Thank you. Could I have, again, just another half twist on that volume, please?
Yeah, sure. Here's a half a twist.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you.
So, Rick, so seriously, the politicians, you think about Hillary Clinton and how she speaks in the microphone. She speaks as if she's retarded. I mean, it's choppy. I mean, why can't they speak in a normal way? Full sentences, complete sentences, correct inflection, correct verbiage, correct usage of the English language. Why do they speak as if we're, everybody in the room, including them, is retarded?
Because they are, mostly. I hate to put it to you that way, but our educational system has gone downhill so badly over the last 20 years that is, in fact, the way most people speak. Now, get a grip here. When I'm trying to say something very, very important, they have dumbed down. I remember when I was in grade school, the United States was considered number 3 in educational processes, not number 1. Back when I was in grade school, it was number 3. That means that Japan and Europe had better educational systems for their children, and then later China, and then later other forms of Asia and Russia, Asia. Now, I'm going to say something. The only way the United States ever was number 1 was in toys in graduate school. And that's why all countries sent their best to the United States for advanced education. Now, that's changed now also. But that used to be why I wanted to go on to graduate school, because of the education I was going to get having access to toys. Mm-hmm. Today, that's no longer true. Universities are having to raise their tuition. If you grow up in the state, you had rights to go to get an education, an advanced education. For me, I grew up in a lower middle-class family. Later, during graduate school, my family changed to upper middle class because of what my mother did. I never saw any of those advances or gifts because before the thing was all finished, my dad was back down to lower. He would go with his new girlfriend for 15 years, actually 13 and a half years. He would go around the world 2 or 3 times a year. And it was okay because that was my dad's money. He and Mom earned that. It had nothing to do with me. And I didn't expect to get it, and I didn't. It's okay. My dad had a good send-off in terms of toward the end of his life, and I have what I have, and feel I'm very lucky and blessed, even though I struggle. Now, I'm going to say some things here that I feel very strongly about regarding education. When I watch a Senate hearing and watch a senator, a junior senator from California, questioning a government official and demanding him to tell the truth, and watching senior opposite, political parties admonishing her in public for not being respectful, I'm going to show you what non-respect is all about from an educational point of view. And I am fed up with all of our leaders, all of them, including Trump. I'm fed up with all of them. Our president is supposed to represent our most educated and morally correct. What has happened to America? Now, I like Trump because, and only because, he's not an isolationist, but he is, what did you call him, the word you used, nationalist?
Well, yeah. He's putting our nation first. He wants us to be the best.
That's what Putin is doing with Russia. Well, Putin may be a criminal. He's just as bad as all of them, and is the third richest man in the world as an individual. One thing you cannot take away from him is that he has done more for Russia than any of their leaders in world history. And when he went to the United Nations in front of everybody and said, if you want to come to Russia and be a Russian, you speak Russian. Now, when I was in school, we had a second language for all the rest of the Americas, and it was called Esperanto. Now, I want to know what happened, because when you go to Indian tribes, coastal tribes, you speak Chinook. And I want to know what happened to Esperanto. How does that work? I am an educated man. I know that I don't know, and my education is constantly being challenged and growth promoted. And I know that no matter, my beliefs today are different than what I used to think. I remember when I was 4 Monsanto in their GMO, not GMO, but their Roundup, because glyphosate was a translocator that would break down into inorganic salts. However, when it was changed and made into a weapon, like water, you've got exclusion zone water and you've got deuterium, and they're both water. It's this way or it's that way. Same thing with everything. Now, God, as I understand God, and I don't, and it's constantly changing, is, not good or evil. He is, period. And so it's man that has polarized God into an entity that is at war with itself? I don't think so. But that's how the Anunnaki and the Nephilim and the rest of the biblical quoting people would have God at war with something. And he's not at war with anything, not in that sense of it. Now, Bob Dylan, and the way Bob Dylan sings it, everybody's got to serve somebody, told me there must be a hierarchy out there. And then when I started studying older texts and the Kabbalah, related, Kolbrin Bibles, etc., there it is, the veils of Isis. Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Ur, above our God, Kether. And the Bibles, plural, make reference to the difference between Yahweh and Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. They are not the same. And so with that said, I know I don't know. But what I do know is I'm watching the way the media is using our limited education and putting spin. That's called lying by omission. They're not telling a lie, but they're not telling the whole truth. And what has happened to the Washington Post and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal that we, all of us, used to look up to? CNN used to be the alternative with Turner, regarding ABC, NBC, and CBS. I miss the Charles Kuralts that are on the road and showing the wonder of America. It's gone. And what is taking place now is wrong, and I would be remiss if I didn't say so as an educated scholar. I'm fed up with all of this, and it's time we take America back as it belongs to us, not them. And we are with Trump. Trump is a little brat kid, and he throws tantrums, and you're fired. That's crazy. However, right now, because he pulled out of the Paris Accords, which have nothing to do with weather, the reason he pulled out is we don't belong there. It's not real. Why would we join that? Like Agenda 21. Who put Agenda 21 into place where our rights can be suspended by another country or a group of countries that disapprove of us? Kind of like Greece refusing to take in immigrants because they think the whole system is flawed and don't want to participate, and the EU is now going to take them to court and sue them, force them to do it? How does that work? That is a group of individuals trying to run the entire world from a different level of countries. And that's the distinctional war that's actually going on right now. You can call it cold, you can call it hot, it's not right. And I have a friend that just was going to work here with me, and he found a better situation in Idaho. And let me tell you what's going on in Idaho. This guy has hooked up with a small religious sect that figure they're going to have 20 to 40,000 refugees shortly, and so they're trying to put up a food system for them. It's happening across America, and everybody knows it's going to happen because how could it not? Now, there we are. End of days.
Rick, we're going into a break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Doc Rams with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Rick, I've got a couple comments on what you just said and how I've addressed these issues in the past when you have people who are alleged representatives who don't do their jobs and how we responded to them. We'll be right back. Doc Ram's with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, docram.com. Rick, many years ago, I lived in Virginia, and I was a farmer, and I was also the CEO of a corporation, a small corporation. And in our county, the alleged representatives sold us out, and they decided that they were going to put a 1,200 or 1,400 acre dump, a trash site on top of an aquifer in an area that was predominantly inhabited by a lot of blacks. And the blacks did not know how to fight this. And I was outraged. And there was a rail line there, and it was at the intersection of two highways, and it was just perfect for bringing in these trash transfer trucks. They're going to bring in one truck every 1.2 minutes. And this thing was going to be operated by a company called Allied Waste. And I heard about it, and I decided I would look into it. And a number of people were interested in stopping it because they thought it was an outrage that the county alleged representatives had just decided that this was a good thing without discussion, without the involvement of the village. So there were a number of meetings, and some people wanted to go write letters to the editor. Some wanted to take out advertisements in the newspaper. Some wanted to, get the word out. They wanted to have petitions, and nothing seemed to be working. And somehow I became the point person for this, or the point man. And I requested to speak to the county administrator and the county representatives in our county in Virginia. And what I found out was there was such a groundswell of people who were against this that we showed up at the appointed time at the appointed location, and it was the best building in town. Of course, that was the county administration building. They built themselves a wonderful complex for their own pleasures. Just a magnificent building, really it was. And they had a magnificent room in which the public could learn about things that these thugs were doing. And they built themselves a nice stage. And they sat raised above the level that the villagers would be at. If we stood or we sat, we got to sit below them. They would look down on us. So I was the first speaker to speak, and they announced that I would have a couple minutes to speak. And they had a podium for me. And the podium was at the ground level, and they, of course, were above the ground level. They were a couple feet higher up, looking down on me. And there was a microphone, and it was aimed so the podium was aimed so when you got behind the podium, you would be facing the county administrator and the alleged county representatives. So what I did was, it had a wireless microphone, and I picked up the wireless microphone from the microphone holder and microphone stand at the podium, and I removed it and put it in my hand, and I turned my back to the county administrator and to the alleged county representatives, and I spoke to the villagers. And I started out by saying, what would you do? First I introduced myself, and I said, what would you do if you had an employee at your company and he put a sign at your business that said, sure, go ahead and dump your trash around back? And the whole crowd yelled, fire him. Then I said, what would you do? And I had another scenario. And they said, fire him. And I had another scenario. And what would you do? Fire him. But one guy yelled, shoot him. Do you know that those people who were on stage panicked at that point? Because one guy said, shoot him. That's how angry this crowd was at the alleged government. But the bribes must have been so thick, so furious, so compelling to put a dump, to poison our water supply, that they were willing to do it to us and their children and their parents. Eventually, when they got letters in the mail that said, you're fired, from all over the county with no return address, they finally backed down and said they weren't going to do it. Now, what I'm saying is, I'm willing to respect people who deserve it. I am not willing to respect people who want to hurt us. And I don't. And I won't. And I'm not going to back down. And that's just my way of doing things. We'll be right back. Yeah, I think what's happening in class is we've had it. We've absolutely had it. And we're speaking out louder and more vigorously than ever before. We've had it with politicians who have lied and cheated, obfuscated, confused us, and have sold us out. But it's not just politicians. It's corporations. And there's a post on the internet, and it says, it's from thesun.co.uk, spy phone. Samsung. Let me say that a different way. Samsung's peeping Tom smartphones listen and watch what you do on the web while monitoring your emails to target you with ads. And it says many Brits have no idea they've allowed Korean manufacturer Samsung to monitor them through their smartphones. And it uses a technology which can spy on what you're reading and watching online and the emails in your inbox. And the phones switch to a spy mode after are alerted by a beacon, often embedded in web pages or sent as ultrasonic signals hidden in the telephone or online advertisements. So what's happening is your phone is communicating with either your PC or where you're traveling, and it's letting like the store know that you're there, and you'll be targeted. You'll be monitored and spied upon so they can sell you more things. It says, if you use a Samsung smartphone, it's likely that you've already agreed for the phone maker to snoop on you. The privacy policy, Samsung's privacy policy says that we, along with certain third parties, also may use technologies called beacons or pixels that communicate information from your device to a server. Beacons can be embedded in online content, videos, emails and allows a server to read certain types of information from your device when you viewed particular content or a particular email message. Determine the time and date on which you viewed the beacon and the address, the IP address of your device. This spying is absolutely out of control.
I'm so frustrated. This one moment, I have a friend that wants me to come on at 10 o'clock tonight with Paranoia Magazine, and I have to ask my girlfriend and my guest that's visiting me right now, Russell, what they have planned late night tonight to say yes or no. And all I wanted to do was capture the dialogue that I did in texting, and Facebook will not let me do that. I have tried 20 times to capture it. It is frustrating me, and yet when I want something, I don't want something else. It pops up, it pops up, it pops up. What you tell me what happens to my irritation coefficient and the willingness to try to communicate when at every single move of my wrist is stopping me cold. I've had enough of everything. And, you know, now I am at war and no longer available to be put on payroll. I'm officially noticing that I'm now going to take stands on things rather than back off and live a simple life like a Quaker up farming, which is what I was willing to do, and I am no longer willing to do that. Now you've got me, and I'm guessing this was done intentionally by a left wing, right wing. They're both connected to the same bird. And, you know, that's Russell Lunge. And my friend that is now visiting me to sweep my house, set up better security. And this is craziness. This is craziness when I'm 73 years old, and I now have had to go back to work in the old work of brokering herbs, not writing. I have no incomes. They have dogged my website to the point where since June of last year, my incomes have gone down to zero. I actually qualify for food stamps with my level of education. I posted yesterday a thing about Alabama and their food stamps where they're requiring people that have to be on food stamps to work. I would have loved to have done that because I don't want something for nothing. I want to feel proud that I did it myself and I pulled myself out of this. And right now, I'm being buried by a bunch of nonsense. And I'm so frustrated. Is it that I'm getting old and losing my mind? Yeah, probably.
No. It's not that. Rick, what has happened is companies are complaining, schools are complaining, governments are complaining that the revenue's not there. Okay? Especially governments are complaining.
What about customer service? Pitney Bowes. I got a device from Pitney Bowes to see if I could get a cheaper way of sending things to people, and I chose not to use it, but at the moment that I was going to send it back, I had to let my office manager go because my incomes were so low. I ended up sending it back to Pitney Bowes, but because it was a couple of days late, they put me into the slots with collection agencies for $81. Now I owe $97. It keeps going up and up. But my credit sharing, I had a perfect credit rating. Now it's not, and I'm getting spam from a dozen different places saying my credit's changed. Now, in itself, that's all nonsense. And when I finally got a hold of the law firm and gave them a thing, they will cease and desist, and it'll go away. But it was 3 months of hassle, and it stopped me from doing other things. And not once was I able to talk to a human being like Amazon. Now, customer service aside, this has become crazy, where when I called Pitney Bowes as a FYI, it took me 7 times. My line would be dropped by accident when they transferred me from the Philippines over to China to talk to somebody on a different department. It's crazy, and I'm using that as a metaphor. It took me 5 hours to finally get them to acknowledge that I didn't owe anybody anything, and yet, guess what? My credit's still posted wrongly. Now, you know, the whole thing is in itself no big deal, because I don't care about my credit anymore in that sense of it. But it's the hassle of just trying to change something simple. And a simple miscom and customer service and the way it's structured now, your wait is 15 minutes. Would you like to leave your phone number and you'll be the next call? You won't lose your position in line. And I do that, and I'll get a call 2.5 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Do you mean if
you
I
just
hadn't
replace
chosen that artificial voice, I would have been on line waiting 2.5 hours? No, I don't believe any of this. And I'm now upset enough. I am, every radio I'm going to do now, I'm going to start saying things about this. And I did one last night. Wait till you see the one I posted on Facebook. Go ahead and read what I talk about Mandela effect and what is and what is not going on with that thing and Fermilabs in Chicago. Now, I can tell you that there's a lot going on in misdirect on purpose with due diligence. And when I say that, we all knew about Fermilab. That was Bell Labs, Sandia. Get a grip. They've been doing it since before CERN even was a twinkle in the guy's eye. And so the elementary particles, I was doing muons and tachyons when I was in high school. So, you know, here we are at the end of days with misdirection, with comic books that are, Luke, I'm your father, whereas father, Luke, I'm your son. You know, who cares? That's a distraction around what is really our problem right now. And sovereignty has many faces, and that's why the Greek called it autarch, supreme individual sovereignty, what you would call maritime law, captain and commander of you. Now, I am my body parts. What do you think my body parts are? My liver, my lung, whatever. You know, it's nuts. This woman shot somebody that was a homeless person because she thought he was a pedophile dealing with little girls and slave trafficking. He wasn't. He was just a homeless person. She's off to jail for 25 years to life. Now, I watched what my friend did with this. I blame the current media, including alternative media. Gaia is not what you think it is. And while Duncan and Nexus Magazine, one of the things I like about Duncan Rhodes is that he was loyal, like you. Once you start working with somebody, you can always find someone better. But you don't. It's about loyalty and the continuity of working with people you know and trust. And while there's always someone that can do it better, the concept of working with family and neighborhood, keeping the money in the neighborhood, that's why Bi-Mart is much better than Fred Meyer. And Fred Meyer is much better than Walmart. And Walmart is much better than, I don't know, what is it, Harbor Freight? I don't know. Whatever, you know, in other words, if you want a tool, you'll get it cheaper at Harbor Freight from China than you will at Walmart or Bi-Mart from China. But there's something else going on. It used to be there were 50 or 60 competitors for Snap-on and Craftsman. Now there's only one, and it's no longer about cheapest and Best Buy. And this is something I talked to you about 4 years ago. The difference in marketing between Best Buy and cheapest. Best Buy meant per dollar spent, you got more bang for your buck as one way you could buy something, and the other was cheapest. Now, that no longer exists. I'm sorry, I hear you. It's just, you know.
We're going into a break. Doc Ram's with us.
But there's something
No, don't be sorry. This is important. We've had it. We'll be right back. Doc Ram's with us. Plus, if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on taxes, and you'd like me to do an on-air seminar, the kind of seminar that I would do if I was at a preparedness convention, I'm willing to do it. But I'd like one of you to join me. So if you'd like, send me an email, Vincent at USA Prepares, and tell me that you're in and you'd like to do the seminar with me. That means that you'll be on the air with me, and you can ask me some questions, and I'll give you my thoughts. But I've got an hour's worth of seminar on how you can take extreme tax deductions, extreme, how to start your own business and do it, why it works, how it works, and the rules. I'm certainly willing to do this, but I'd like one of you to step up to the plate and see if you're interested. So if you're interested, I am. Okay, Vincent at usaprepares.com. So Rick, we've had it, and another thing that I've had is, like, if I go to the Drudge Report and I click on a news link, it comes up with the Wall Street Journal, ads come up. I've got to close the ad so I can read it, and then the screen grays out. Then I can't read it very well. So what do? I close it. So I'm not interested. I'm not interested in paying for news. I can get it for free. I don't need to get it from the Wall Street Journal. I don't need to get it from the New York Times. Both of them have become a nuisance, in my opinion, for ease of reading. I don't like it. So if I see it's a Wall Street Journal and I know it's going to gray out, I just click it and close it. Now, if enough of us do that, if enough of us find that we're just not going to read it, we're not going to try to read it, we're not going to sign up, eventually that pop-up ad will go away. But I'm sick of these ads. It's worse than television. It really is. Your thoughts, Rick? Well,
It's going downhill. When I load up Bing using Mozilla Foxfire, not Tor, which I'm now being educated on how to use so they can't track me on what I'm looking at, I've got a friend here teaching me some new computer skills that will allow me to have just a modicum less of more privacy. I'm going to have a little more privacy. I have none now, just with Wi-Fi. I mean, we're talking about there's 3 signals right next to mine, and I'm in the middle of the country on top of a mountain somewhere, and yet there's people around me that can log into me and or me log into them with passwords. And that's an easy crypto that's easily broken, and so I'm exposed. And the first thing my Navy friend did this morning, you know what the latest news is? They're using drones to peep on naked women. And I went, what? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, it was the bathhouse at the local lake where women or girls would change into their swimsuits and you'd peek through walls. Good gosh, what is happening to this country? I mean, and you can go down to Bimart and buy one for $49. You can buy a drone now. $49. What a crock!
Rick, if a drone is found flying over our farm, I think it would be a challenge to stay airborne.
Well, yeah, I really believe that. Shoot, and I got pretty good at it. You know, where you had 2 or multiple targets going in opposite directions. Yeah, you know, where you had lock and load, and let's do some practice on grouse hunting. Now, this is nuts. Yeah. And by the way, I think there's a law against it. Oh, I'm certain there is. You know, like shining a laser light at somebody in an aircraft coming too close to your house, low flying.
The authorities, the authorities will be at your house within an hour.
There is no law with EPA governing anything other than what comes out of an engine, an aircraft engine. And in other words, dumping pollution in the air without it coming through an engine is legal. Did you know that?
Wow. Explains a lot. Rick Miller and I'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. We're right back. I'd like to I'd like to talk about Epsom salts and tomatoes. I'd like to talk about the supply chain. I'd like to talk about capacitors and electronic circuits and why they won't last more than 10 years typically. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Doc Rams with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Class, if you'd like to go to his website, docram.com. That'll take you to Facebook, and it'll take you to the links if you'd like to peruse his books. And he's got a special. Rick, tell us about your special.
Well, I have written a hard version or book form of the encyclopedia, which is 2 of 9 volumes, and I have recently completed all 9 volumes of the Encyclopedia Alternative Agriculture in ebook format. It was $43. It is now on sale for $34. It's 9 volumes and several thousand pages, cross-referenced and indexed in alternative field crops and cottage industries and marketing options. And that is something I did back in the late 80s, or actually early 80s, and finished in the late 90s. And now I'm coming out with a new set of books that will be on sale for 1 week only with a 25% discount. And I'm having trouble with credit cards on my website. And so now people are either working with me through normal mail or because I'm not a big deal. I'm not trying. We have a download library we're going to set up for my metaphysics books. I have 15 courses I taught from 1990 to 2001 at various universities across the United States, including Harvard. And Meta 3, which is nine weeks of lectures, was when John Mack took the course at Harvard and then began his alien abduction series. And each one has download books of rare manuscripts I quote from to teach these courses. And course number, I think it's Meta 11 or 12 of 15, has to deal with cybernetic anthropology and Laughlin, the Aquilian McManus, and I lecture from that set of books on brain, symbol, and human experience, and how it is a textbook on magic, and why I am now coming out of the closet and looking at things beyond the physical plane. And I am here to tell you that the courses, I'll send you the first 3 metaphysical books, their table of contents, and you tell me if it's worthwhile, because I deal with dreams and satmat and meditation and the importance of how to determine who you are. It's, for me, it has made me become what I am today as a scientist. And I'm not really a scientist. I'm something more. And that's what we're all aspiring toward, is this union with self and moving to the next level of awareness with consciousness. And when I opened up my computer this morning, I'm looking at this one first article. President Trump's approval rating hits another new low, and they've got him with a big sour face and all of that. And you know what? I don't believe it. And I believe it's to make you think that people are not really approving of him. And while that may or not be true, what would you be doing if Clinton were in right now and we started our war with North Korea? Now, war is good for business, and I've been to your home and seen your memorabilia where you showed me a Ford motor button with a swastika on it. That's real clear and right up front on what war is good for. That reminds me of a song. What's it good for? Nothing. It's about money. And a friend of mine did a Baphomet. He's got 2 fingers up, 2 fingers down with anonymous. And the 2 fingers up says, I love, and the 2 fingers down says money. And I am reminded of Gecko in the movie Wall Street, where greed is good. Now, we have lost our way. Bah Bah, bah, bah.
You know, it's really sad how we have literally lost our way, and how young people don't understand very much about anything.
How would you
I was reading a
be
post.
A young person now?
I can't imagine.
I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. And
who would
be a 200 or 300 year apology from our generation back to the younger ones, trying to apologize for the natural laws we all broke.
Rick, who would a young person look up to today? Other than maybe Donald Trump, other than him, maybe Bill Cosby?
That's who they're looking up to. They're looking up to Wonder Woman. Hola. And let me say this about that. That is why the comics, that's what inspired me when I was a child. Superheroes that are real. Moral codes of ethics, rules of kind, a role model of whom I'd like to become like. Me, I, as a child, always wanted to become Doctor Strange. And guess what? That movie, Doctor Strange, is number 5 in all-time science fiction that is correct scientifically. Interstellar is number 6 with wormholes. And I'm going to say more about that. This is what kids are needing now, is real-life human heroes. Where are they? I remember when it used to be, Will Rogers. And now we don't have anything like that anymore. Well, we might, but I'm saying it's terrible. And the educational system is not there to help. It is there to control as a weapon. And that's what everything is about right now. Weaponization on how to edge it and use this for that. And the same thing goes with water. You've got exclusion zone water, which makes the finest antioxidant the world's ever known for radiation sickness, or you've got deuterium, same water, and that's used to do 9/11. Now,
Rick, we've got some names. People used to think these guys were great. O.J. Simpson, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Bill Cosby. Yeah. Bill Cosby. Jerry Sandusky.
I Spy was my hero because I played tennis. And imagine that poor man and what he's going through now, because, Zen Gardner is someone I totally respected. He's a better writer than I am. And yet, he has been ostracized because he was part of the children of God.
I think the case is a little different for Bill Cosby. There are more women coming out saying that they have been drugged and abused and fondled and poked. And
do you think that's true?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think that he did them all?
Where there's smoke, there's probably some fire. And how could all of these women be saying similar things and have it not be true? How's that possible? I've lost respect for them.
Fallen heroes.
Well, at one time we looked up to these guys because we were taught by the media that they were bigger than life. They were our role models. They were portrayed as being something.
That is in comic books? That is Hellblazer or Constantine. And that's one of my most favorite, because even with that fallen hero battling with Satan for his soul, that guy taught me more metaphysics than anything I read from Rosicrucians.
When I was in high school, we had I was taught by the Jesuits.
Yeah,
and they wore these.
Them, man. If you don't good, you're going to get stuck in parochial school. I remember that.
Well, let me share this. Let me share this little story with you. So, some of the Jesuit brothers would wear black suits with a white collar. Some would wear the robes with the collar tabs that would hang down, 4, 5, 6 inches. And we would, as students, we would talk about, who do you have for math, who do you have for science, who do you have for biology, and so forth. Who do you have for trigonometry? Who do you have for history? And there was this one brother. His name was Brother William. And we used to refer to him as HB. So what do you have for history, HB? And it'd be a little chuckle. And I went to my 25th high school reunion, and there was a lay teacher there, meaning a non-brother teacher, who I had for history. And he happened to be there 25 years later, welcoming us to our 25th reunion. He recognized me, and I recognized him. And I said, will Brother William be here tonight? Because one of my most memorable events in high school was when I went into the men's room, or the boys' room, and I was the only guy there. And Brother William came running in, and he grabbed me by my collar, my shirt, jacked me up against the wall, and wanted to know why I put the Pope's picture in the toilet. And unfortunately, for him, I was not the guy who did that. The Pope's picture was higher than I could jump, and someone who was taller and could jump higher probably got that and put it in the toilet, and I didn't do it. But I guess maybe by reputation they thought I did it. Anyway, so I had asked, that was one of my most memorable high school events, was being jacked up by Brother William. So I asked if Brother William was going to be at the reunion. And the lay teacher said, "You mean Homo Bill?" We used to call him HB. HB. And even the faculty called him the same thing. So years later, I met with one of my fellow students, and he said, "Did HB ever come after you?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, boy, I just got out of there, and I thought he was coming after me." So where there's smoke, there could be fire. We'll be right back. Class Doc Grams was Rick. So if we are interested in getting your encyclopedia, just go to docram.com, right?
Yes. Well,
okay.
Good luck with that. Yes. PayPal works. Credit cards may or not. We're in the middle. We don't know.
Okay.
So
Rick, I wanted to share with you.
Stop right now. That's one of the things we're doing this morning is changing my internet function.
One of the things I wanted to chat with you about is relates from a discussion I had with USA Preparedness instructor Rich Shealy. He and I were on the telephone last night, and we were talking about cryptocurrencies. And I mentioned that cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, are dependent on two things. One is perception of value. What are they worth? Two, the electron. And without the electron, the cryptocurrencies absolutely positively stop. Unless someone can convince me that I'm wrong, I don't know how you would use a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin without the electron. And the electron there's some failure points. And let me just mention this, and I'd love to hear your take on it, Doc Graham. So if you look at a motherboard on a computer, it has some traces, it has capacitors, resistors, conductors, it has semiconductors, and one of the failure points is the central processing unit. And if that central processing unit does not get cooled enough, meaning the thermal transfer compound that transfers the heat from the central processing unit to the heatsink, and then that heatsink heat is removed by the fan that blows on the heatsink. If all that doesn't work properly, the CPU, the central processing unit, will fail faster than its normal life expectancy. And if the fan doesn't work, it can fail within a few minutes. It can overheat and just
How about
fail right then.
artificial intelligence, where this massive supercomputer, a D-Wave technology, is the size of your thumb, and the entire computer complex is a cooling system that is run in deep space so that this little thing, alien-based life form, can function and go to universes you cannot. It is about the extremes of our universe where life still exists. And I'm going to say that our romance, that's a post I put on my website yesterday. Thank you, Joey. is on artificial intelligence. Now, that woman's take, just FYI, is religious in orientation, and so it's semi-biased with 666 and little games they play with mnemonics and numerology. But ultimately, we are lost our way and are being driven by I don't know what. And right now, good news, they're on the run because this is their last-ditch attempt to try to retain control, and they can't because guess what? Control in Jungian psychotherapy is a fantasy. It doesn't work like that. So once everybody gets that picture, now you're going to understand why I'm writing the Non-Local Minds book and how to change the movie. I am in the process of doing it, and in the interim, I am being thrown gauntlets in front of me to stop me. And you know what? That's Liber Oz, and I'm announcing that to the universe. Now, I'm not even at my computer, and it just took over with sound. How does that work? Now, I've had enough. I'm declaring war. And I have a baseball bat, a steel baseball bat, that's great for knees. And should I find out individual names, I'm going to show you how that one works with the unexpected from real intellect. I've had enough. I'm just sitting here on the other side of the room, and all of a sudden, without touching anything, my computer is taking over and changing things, and sounds coming on, ads popping up. I'm not even at my computer. It was in stasis, and now it's not. How does that work?
It happens at our house too. It happens in the kitchen all of a sudden. Yeah. Let me share the rest of the story about capacitors when we come back. Class, Doc Graham and I are talking about the electron, and just to go back a little bit, Rich Sheba and I were on the phone last night, and we were talking about the dependency on the electron. Cryptocurrencies are dependent on the electron in order to be viable, as well as our perception of the cryptocurrency value. So those are, in my opinion, two things that the cryptocurrencies require in order to be operable. So here's my take on computers. I know for a fact that I have a computer motherboard here. It's a dual processor server board, and it blew. Why did it blow? Well, the electrolytic capacitors failed after 7 years. They just popped. Now, in order to make that computer motherboard work, I have to replace the capacitors. That's easy to do, and for a few dollars I can do that. But if I didn't have the skill, didn't have the knowledge to do that, I would not be able to. So how many people are knowledgeable, know that the electrolytic capacitors in power supplies can fail, and will know what values to buy, how to solder them in, and how to do that? So that's one question. So the next question is, what about lighting? So you buy these LED lights, and they say that they'll last 50,000 hours. Yeah, the LED portion may. But what won't is the electrolytic capacitors in the power supplies in the drivers that drive these LED lights that convert the voltage from AC 125 down to 3 volts. How long will they last? Well, they won't last to 50,000 hours. And for each 10-degree drop in Celsius, 10 degrees Celsius, 10-degree drop, you double the life expectancy of the electrolytic capacitors. So the problem is, if you look at these even compact fluorescent lights, if they're upside down, they heat up the electrolytic capacitors, meaning if they're in can lights, and they don't last very long. If they're sideways, if you mount the light bulb sideways, the electronics that drives the compact fluorescent lights last longer. Same with LEDs. Bottom line, the hotter they get, the less the life expectancy of them. Now, if we have computers that we're dependent upon to run everything, then what would that be? No bank can operate without a computer. Stores cannot operate without a computer. Gas pumps cannot operate without a computer. Okay? Even traffic lights are dependent on the electron. So if the electric grid goes down because it's dependent on computers, if the electron is absent in our lives in terms of electricity, we won't even be able to get through the intersection safely because it'll be pandemonium at the intersection. And how do I know this? Well, we are, at our farm, we are in the process of converting from being 100% on the grid to solar and alternative energy. Well, right now, at this moment, we are dependent on the grid. That's changing as we speak. And I've been experimenting and going on and off the grid for various components of our farm. But at one point, a couple weeks ago, there was a tornado 20 miles away. It took out a wide swath of our little hamlet in Missouri. As a matter of fact, took out a wide area. No one had electricity. That meant refrigeration stopped, traffic lights stopped, gas pumps stopped, the pharmacies stopped, the Chinese factory outlet wasn't able to conduct business. Everything stopped. So the point is, we are being held hostage by our own technology, by these computers that seem to be running everything that we're not smart enough to do anymore. We don't know how to do things anymore. And young people seem to know less about more and more. Pretty soon they'll know absolutely nothing about everything. Rick, your thoughts?
Well, let me read my news feed and what I have for headline titles. This ought to be in itself. Forget terrorism. The real reason behind Qatar isolation is natural gas. Putin hints that JFK was murdered by same deep state. Fraud beyond belief. This is MIT. 5G radiation dangers. 11 reasons to be concerned. Government searches conducting using smart meters. That means they're using smart meters to spy on you now, not just toxin. And NASA can't explain what made this strange deep hole on Mars. Terrorists are over here because our troops are over there. Let's see. WAPO frets over drug safety risks while ignoring vaccine risks. UBI could replace the system of subsidies and benefits at hardly any cost. Is the Ebola vaccine a genetic bioweapon? Fake everything, confronting our ideological hegemony. Everything is fake. The simple blood test can predict cancer years before symptoms appear. Jasmine essential oil increases serotonin production, better than anti-anxiety medication. That's your aromatherapy and smell. How about research? Pomegranates reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. How to read someone's mind easily. You know, that is something in Criminal Minds where they say one thing and watch the physical way the eye moves on someone, or the knee jerks, or the hand moves. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. You're communicating on, that's just one news feed in the articles for today. Now, I am trying to stay abreast of what's going on out there. Capacitors aside, you know, just your telephone pole is a capacitor. You know, once you put a charge between two, a dielectric, you know, there you've got a capacitor. It's in everything, including microtubules and the structured water that now is called the soul, the physical source of the physical representation of the soul. It is memory water inside a microtubule, and it leaves the body every night in certain dreams. It leaves the body when you astral project. It leaves the body at the moment of death, that 3.2-ounce weight loss. Where did it go? Isn't that interesting? And what we are now discovering is the most important, possibly the most important discovery this century, is the structure and memory in water. Now, I don't know anything. I know a bunch of knowledge which changes daily. I've had enough. This Comey testimony, get a grip. It's another witch hunt. just like McCarthy. And
Rick, I've noticed something.
D.C. should be afraid, just like Wednesday said. Is it made with real Girl Scouts?
Rick, I've noticed something that seems to be a new phenomenon, and that is carelessness seems to be increasing at an increasing rate. Now, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think so. What I'm seeing more and more items on the internet that are inaccurate. Let me give you an example. I wanted to buy a sink, a very specific sink, made by American Standard. It's vitreous china, and I wanted to match the sinks that we have already here. I think it's a good quality product, but it's been discontinued. So the faucet that we have, I have a faucet, and I bought them all to match, and they're made with a ceramic cartridge, which should last a long, long time. They have a 4-inch spacing on the faucet plumbing connections. Well, American Standard, Kohler, and a bunch of other companies have changed the standard to 8 inches. They want a widespread faucet now. For a bathroom sink, it makes no sense. No sense at all. They also have a one-hole faucet. They also have an it's called an undermount. So instead of mounting the sink on top of the counter, you mount it under the counter. It makes no sense to me, but evidently some people think it's great. That's not what I want. I want a 4-inch spacing, center set, vitreous china sink. So I go on the internet and I can find all kinds of pictures of these. And if you look up the model number they're selling, it's an 8-inch faucet mount, which means everyone that buys this sink, based on the picture, it will not fit the faucet. It will not fit the faucet they intend. Every single one that I see. I don't know if they're all using the same picture or what. Then I'm looking at gauges. Remember, Stuart Warner used to make gauges for water temperature, oil pressure, amps, volts, for your car, and you could hang this 3-gauge bezel underneath your dash, and you could mount extra gauges in your 1960s vintage vehicles. Well, there are images on eBay, and it will show a gauge, a water temperature gauge, 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 280 degrees Fahrenheit. If you read the description, it will say 40 degrees to 120 degrees. It doesn't match. What I'm saying is, it's not just one of these. It's over and over, mistake after mistake after mistake. And I'm seeing it more and more often. And when I buy things, if someone has to ring it up manually, they make more mistakes than ever before. Are you seeing that, or is it just me?
It's just on and on. I'm looking right now at Microsoft News and an AP Associated Press by Mary Clark Jalonik, Associated Press. And it's about the Republican chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee admonishing California Senator Kamala Harris, along with other Democrats, and asking her to be more respectful Wednesday as she presses top intelligence chiefs testifying before the panel. The exchange was tense, with Harris interrupting Rosenstein as he started to say there wasn't enough time to explain the answer. Oh, yeah, right. When she asked for a yes or no answer, he demurred, and she said, either you are willing to do or that or not. And that's when they admonished her for not being respectful. Now, you tell me what's wrong with this.
We're being run over. We're being run over by these.
We're being run over by
these politicians
that are from another country.
We'll be right back. All right, class. So, those of us who have had enough, let's just think about this. So, Facebook wants to spy on people through their smartphone camera and analyze their emotions on their face. So, you get this image on your smartphone, and your camera is facing you as you look at it. Your image is captured by this Facebook application, and it determines whether you're happy, sad, or what based on this image. So this facial image that it's captured of you looking at the image on your screen has been captured. Company has developed this. It's called CBI Insight. And it analyzes emotions. Can you imagine this? So you're looking at your phone, it's looking at you, it captures your image, and it determines whether you like it or not. It's out of control. Class, this is one of the reasons why I don't have a phone. I don't have a cell phone. I don't want a cell phone. But a smartphone is like nuts. This thing is a personal tracking device. It's spying on your every move. It can even determine whether you like what you see on your screen and forward that to them for further analysis and study. And how long do they keep it? I don't know. But you tend to agree to these things when you accept the terms and conditions. Absolutely out of control. And why do I not travel and speak anymore? Because I don't want people in the seminar where I'm speaking with their cell phones. I won't allow someone in my house with their cell phone. Why? Because someone else or some software application can turn on their cell phone in my house. And if they're too stupid to know this, if they're too ignorant to know this, I don't want their phone in my house. I don't want people even showing up at my house, Rick.
Well, I used to have a rule that if you didn't call first, I wouldn't answer the door. That's when I was doing magical retreats and vows of silence. If they didn't call me to let me know they were coming, I wouldn't answer the door. Now, I'm not like that anymore, and I'm trying to become a sweet old man. But, you know, I don't know how to express this, but it's hard to articulate what I'm feeling now. I feel violated.
Of course. Of course. Rick,
I mean,
you know, you're saying...
like I've just been raped, pillaged, and destroyed.
Plundered. You know, Rick, you mentioned you want to be sweet. Well, you are sweet. But I'm going the other way. I'm becoming grumpy.
Sweet and sour sauce. Here we are, the sweet and sours. That's what we call our new Vincent Finelli show, the sweet and sours.
After 8 to 10 years dealing with a commercial contract with an auto parts chain, and I walked in there and I was annoyed. I was annoyed that I'm paying the same price after 8 to 10 years of loyal business with these guys. And they are charging me the same price as everybody else. They're not charging me the commercial account price. They're taking advantage of me. And I called them on it. I literally, in front of everybody in the store. I said, how come? How come you're charging me the same amount as everybody else? And I've been here for 8 to 10 years with a commercial account. What are you going to do about it? And you know what? They gave me a 20% discount. And I said, that's great. Now what about next time? And they said, well, just talk to the store manager. And I said, okay, and explain exactly what happened today. And they said, yes. And they said, the store manager said, I'll let everybody know that when you come in, that this is the way it goes until we fix this. Yeah.
Or else, yeah.
Well, yeah. That's exactly right. So Rick, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not. I'm getting grumpy. and who taught me this? The revenuers in Missouri, when they decided to come after us. Ultimately, they apologized. And they're going after another guy in Springfield. Same exact tactics. So it's systematic. It's systematic financial terrorism by the Department or Division of Revenue, state of Missouri. Out of control thugs. I wrote a letter to the governor, no response. Wrote a letter to our alleged representative, no response. So I don't have any representation. Not that I know of. Rick, hey, thanks so much for being with us. DocRam.com.